Alright, let's start this project by, it's easier really if you remove the seat. Go to your access panel, remove that. What we're going to go to next is you will see, okay, you're going to take the hoses off these two aluminum tubes that are down here. Okay, one hose you're just going to take completely out of there, just push it off the side. And then this hose right here hooks to the bottom of the water pump, stock water pump. You can cut it off, sometimes it's easier, or you can just pull it off. And if you're going to pull it off, undo the two bolts on the water pump and then pull it towards the passenger side. You'll get it off the end of here. Then you're going to splice it using the 5/8 to 3/4 connector, the hose connector, with the two hose clamps that are supplied. And you'll run this hose back towards the driver's side and up in through the access plate up towards the radiator. Okay, here we have the water pump. You'll leave this connected. Now what we're going to do is we'll undo, there's two bolts that can hold this pump in place. Undo the bolts and pull the pump out after you undo the hose from the back side. Just push it out of the way. And then what you're going to do is let's see, there, so you see this. You're going to splice right there. You're going to splice this hose from the bottom of the pump and you'll use, let's see if we get a better picture. There we go. You'll use the 5/8 to 3/4 coupler and the two hose clamps, and you'll run that to the hose. It'll run up to the driver's side of the radiator. And the length of that hose is listed in the directions. Okay, now we're going to go to the water pump. We're on the passenger side of the car, back underneath the sway bar. There's your water pump. Leave this connected. There's no reason to disconnect this. Okay. This hose here, it runs up. That hose, let's follow that thing. Up and around. Up and to the intercooler. That is this hose right here. You're not going to do anything with this hose. Do not remove it. The other hose is the one you took off the aluminum tube. We're going to modify that here a little bit later in the video. Okay, you'll remove the lower hose leading up to the intercooler. Near the back of the engine. You see there's exhaust. But you'll remove that lower hose, take it completely off. Now we will cut the hose at approximately 9 inches from the end where the elbow is there. As you can see, it doesn't have to be perfect, about 9 inches. Right, this hose off the bottom of the intercooler is the piece that was cut to 9 inches earlier in the video. Okay, that is going to be coupled. You can see it right there with a 5/8 to 3/4 coupler and two hose clamps. That line runs up to the passenger side of the radiator, and that would be right up here. Okay, underneath, okay, go to the radiator on the driver's side, just above the tire and wheel, right next to the shock. You'll see there's a hose at the very top of the radiator. You're going to remove that hose. There's one at the bottom of the radiator. This one right here. You're going to remove that one. Push the hoses off the side, you won't need them. And you're going to tie these together with a small piece of hose and hose clamps provided in the kit. As you can see, it goes from the bottom, let's see, better either from the bottom up to the top, right, like that. All we're doing is capping off these these coolant connections. Okay, now we're going to install the switch, you will drill a 15-30 seconds hole right here between the seats in front of the access panel. You could mount the switch into the access panel if you'd like. The switch, if turned on, the fan will only come on when you turn the key on. If you don't want the fan on, turn the switch off. Alright, there's two leads coming from the fan. One's positive, one's negative. Positive will have a red wire. The negative will be a black wire. The black wire is routed to one side of the switch, and off the other side of the switch is another black wire, which will go to chassis ground. Chassis ground will be mounted on the driver's side above the clutches to a little bracket right here. You'll be provided with a screw and a nut, and you'll screw that eyelet right to the chassis ground. Now the red wire will come down and along. You'll zip tie it up here. I'm showing you a black wire, but in your kit you'll have a red wire. That red wire is connected with the crimp connector to the red and yellow wire of the tail light plug assembly, as you can see here. Again, this black wire will be red in your kit. Okay, when filling this radiator system, fill it with a cap. Fill it up, put the cap back on it, start the car, run the car for approximately 1-2 minutes, remove the cap, fill it again, start the car, run a couple more minutes, and that should be about it. It'll take about half a gallon of coolant. Mix 50-50 antifreeze and water, distilled water, and it should be full. Check it periodically to make sure it's full. There's no pressure in the system because it doesn't get that hot at all. It may just get lukewarm. So there's no issues of pressure blowing the cap off or anything like that. Here are the locations for the coolant lines in the access panel. What we used here was a hole saw, a 1-inch hole saw. And if you flip this thing over, you can see where the locations are for those holes. Another option would be to notch these out, like straight over, and then this one straight back. That will give you the option of removing this panel without having to take the hoses off the radiator. You just have to undo the radiator, pull it back, and then take the access panel right off of it. And that's the option I prefer.